Hello, Croeso, Fulcher, welcome back to the channel, Old Boy here, and today I just wanted to make a short video just addressing one of the comments that was left on the last video. Now the comment was left by Frank, and here's what he has to say. Is there any evidence of the modern Galician languages having been affected by its Gallaecian predecessor? I'd be interested to know if these similarities include more than vocabulary, such as grammatical features and idioms. Now, when I saw this comment, I'd actually been watching a couple of videos which elaborated on this area. So what I thought I would do today is I'll just make a summary of these two videos, just to summarise what's been discussed, and hopefully that'll shed a little bit more light onto the topic and will hopefully help answer Frank's question here. Now, as always, I would urge you to go and watch the full videos, and I will leave a link in the description box below, so make sure you go and check out these two videos. Okay, so the first video is by Langfocus, and it's called Galician versus Portuguese, how similar are they? In this video, Langfocus gives us a history of Galician and Portuguese, calling them sister languages, and shows that they evolved from a common ancestral language which was called Galego-Portuguese, and was first attested in around the 9th century, before branching off into Galician and Portuguese around about the 13th century.
Galician is a sister language of Portuguese, with the two of them sharing a common origin. Beginning in around the 9th century, there was a Romance language now referred to as Galician Portuguese, though at the time it was simply considered a form of vulgar Latin. This language began diverging into distinct Galician and Portuguese languages during the 13th century.
Langfocus then goes on to say that the languages are quite similar today and share a high degree of mutual intelligibility. He explains that both languages have a very similar grammar and vocabulary, alongside many small differences in phonology and orthography due to the Castilian influence on Galician.
Because Galician and Portuguese are still so similar today and have a high level of mutual intelligibility, you may hear some people say that Galician is a dialect of Portuguese. But that's not accurate, because it makes it sound like Galician developed from Portuguese, when in reality they both developed from the same medieval language referred to as Galician Portuguese. They're very similar in terms of grammar and vocabulary, but there are lots of little differences in their phonology and orthography, in large part due to the influence of Castilian on Galician.
While the languages do have differences in consonant sounds, nasal vowels, nasal consonants, some differences in word forms and verb conjugations, pronouns remain very similar, almost identical, and the notion of a high level of mutual intelligibility shared between the two languages is seemingly confirmed by native speakers in the comments section of the video. Now that we've established this similarity, that links us into the next video I want to summarise for you, which is called How Celtic is Portuguese by Ben Llywelyn. Okay, now in this video, Ben starts out by pointing out that the vowel distance from Latin is highest in Portuguese when compared with other Romance languages such as Italian, Sardinian, Spanish, Romanian and Occitan. He also goes on to say the number of vowels found in Portuguese is 14, with 37 phonemes available in the language, and goes on to say that the available number of sounds in Portuguese is closer on a spectrum to the Celtic languages than to other Romance languages.
Sardinian 8%, Italian 12%, Spanish 20%, Romanian 23.5%, Occitan 25%, Portuguese 31%, vowels Portuguese 14, Welsh 14, and the total number of sounds 37 in Portuguese to 45 in Welsh, quite high in Irish as well, but Spanish and Basque are quite low, and French 39, Romanian's quite low, but it makes up for it in diphthongs, combinations of vowels. The point being that Portuguese, in terms of the amount of sounds available, is actually closer on a spectrum to the Celtic languages than it is to most of the rest of the Romance languages.
Now Ben comments on why he thinks this may be the case, stating that Galicia and Asturias were the earliest seeds from which the Portuguese language arose, both being areas of the Iberian Peninsula which were the furthest away from the centre of the Roman Empire. In addition to this, Ben states that these regions, due to their geographical locations, also avoided influence from Basque and Arabic. He then goes on to say that Celtic is the second biggest layer that makes up Portuguese after Latin.
there's an underlayer in Portuguese which is considerably different. Galicia and Asturias, where the earliest seeds of the Portuguese language came from, being both so far removed from the prestigious centers of the empire, combined with a heavy underlayer of Celtic, which has a broader spectrum of sound phonemes than Latin. The second biggest layer after Latin in Portuguese is Celtic.
Okay, so in the next section of this video, Ben shows similarities between Portuguese and Welsh sounds and gives examples of diphthongs and nasal sounds, and goes on to say that these sounds are not available in any of the other Romance languages. Also points out some of the similarities between some of the numbers and gives us the number 2 as an example. Finally, Ben shows us a number of words in Portuguese which share cognates in the Celtic languages, before summarising that he estimates that Portuguese is 10 to 15% Celtic. Let's take a look at some of those words now.
The one that leapt out at me was the ending sh sound in Portuguese, which you get a lot in southern Welsh dialects. Temos cerveja, we have beer. That word for beer there actually does come from Celtic. In Welsh it's cwrw, and it would have come from an older word, cyrfai, both of us. Nosos dois. This word for two here at the end, dois. It's almost identical to Welsh doi, a South Welsh dialect for the word for two, doi. Boi dobra. This is a combination of victory and hill. Boidi or boido. Cognate with Welsh bydd, a great win or a benefit. Buddugoliaeth, victory. And the Celtic briga, hill. In Welsh, brig, the summit or tops of. Also, Colnum Briga, meaning hill fortress of the rocky citadel. These Briga names are all over, especially the north of Portugal and the inland bits. Evora, and this comes from Ebora, a Celtic confederacy, and this shares, if you know any Welsh, it comes from the same root as Efrog, the Welsh word for York, meaning of the yew trees.
So as you can see, Portuguese does still seem to share some affinity to the Celtic languages, and due to the high level of mutual intelligibility between Galician and Portuguese, we can assume the same can be said for Galician also. I hope this video has helped answer the question, Frank, and I also hope it's helped give a little bit more context to what we've been discussing in the last few episodes. Once again, I urge you to watch the full videos by Ben and Langfocus, and you can find links to the videos in the description box below. Thanks again to everyone who leaves comments like Frank in the comments section below. Thanks to everyone for the continued support. It's much appreciated. Catch you on the next one. All boy out.